All right, it is time for another fun dialogue at First Metropolitan Church. Welcome to, I guess we say First Met TV, where we try to make sure that the Word of God goes forth and that our people, are informed about the many different topics that might need to be addressed and that aren't always addressed. And today we have one of those topics that we need to do more talking about, and that is money. Yes, go ahead and say money, 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 money. I know you love saying it because you want more of it. But the question is what you gonna do with that money when you get it in your hands? That's the thing that has me concerned. It's not we know that our God is going to provide. That's what He do. That's what He do. That's why you eat right now. That's why you living good right now. Our God does His job. Period. That's what the kids say. Period. That's our God does His job. Period. The question is what are you doing as a manager and as a steward? So First Metropolitan has asked an expert to come in and share her wisdom and her experience with us to lead us in this dialogue about what you're going to do with that money, because it is important. So today we're going to talk about money, investments, stewardship, and inheritance. Yes, and inheritance. Don't get nervous if you're an older person and listening. It's just part of the game. It's part of what we do, and it's a part of what you're supposed to be leaving according to this same Bible that you be reading and studying. So do your job. Do your job and leave an inheritance. Amen. Do y'all love your boy? All right, good. I hope that you do, because we really do push the element. But today we have none other than the young lady, Janna Hurd. She is from Thrivent. And she has been such a blessing to us over the years at First Metropolitan Church. And we wanted to add her into this dialogue so that she could give us the wisdom that we need to better ourselves. And welcome in Sister Janna Hurd.
Hi.
Go ahead and give us the overview. What do you do? What's your area of expertise? How did you get to this point? Give us the overview.
All right. So thank you again for inviting me, First Met. I am just, again, am thrilled to be here. So what do I do, and who is Janna, and who is Thrivent? So my name is Janna Hurd. I'm a licensed financial professional here in the state of Texas. I'm also licensed to do financial advising and practicing in about 10 other states. So what do I do with financial professional? Well, it is it's a very big arena, but primarily I help individuals, businesses, organizations, churches gain financial clarity. So I answer questions like, do I have enough money saved for retirement? How much if I want to send my child to college? Do I have enough insurance to take care of my family if something were to happen to me? Those are the types of questions that I answer for families, for organizations, for churches, individuals, etc. And the company that I work for is very unique. We are a not-for-profit company, but we are a financial services firm. So we are a full financial services firm. So we do everything from provide life insurance products to disability products to investment products. So we do the whole gamut of financial services, and we're not-for-profit. So we started in the Lutheran Church, and we've expanded to all people, but all groups. But the thing about Thrivent is because we did start in the Lutheran Church and as a faith-based organization, that's where our heart continues to be. And we have a lot of programs where we offer different generosity programs with them. So that's what we see. But as we are a financial services firm, so we're offering all financial services.
Well, we love one-stop shopping. That is the American way, and it is great to have a company that is filled with individuals like you that offer a multiplicity of services and expertise. And we are thankful for that because we don't have to have 15 people on. We can have one Janna Hurd on and have all of the wisdom that we need in this moment to get something great from this. So we're going to go ahead and start this party off. And one of the first things that is out right now, a lot of people are talking about the stock market. And so one of the things that we talked about is that in the past and which you should do. So let's start off by looking at this idea of savings versus mutual funds or just stock in general. So go ahead and jump in and lead us down this alley. And I'm gonna jump in here and there and ask some comments and also ask some good questions as well.
Okay, awesome, great. So savings, mutual funds, investment. So I want to talk about this. I'm a little bit of a teacher, so I'm going to talk about this with some key definitions I'm going to give first as I talk through this. So one of the things that people need to understand is that money and time, they go together. So if you have time to grow your money, the power of compounding your dollar, compounding your money, that's very important. So it's not to say that if you get started late, you can't catch up, and you can't, still invest and get to a good point. But you want to understand that time and money, they go good together. So if you start investing little bits of money over time, that compounding value of the money will give you a pretty good outcome in the end. So a couple of terms that we need to understand is, one is interest. And this is when you are earning money on the money that you are saving. So a lot of people feel like, okay, if I go put my money in the bank, any bank, I'm not even going to name names, it doesn't matter, you're earning about 0.01% or 0.01, which is just 1 penny on $100. So if you were to say, okay, I'm just going to go I got this money, I'm going to go put it in the bank. Well, you're going to earn 1 penny on $100 on average over the whole year. So you really need to think about, okay, what are you really doing with that money when you put it in a savings account versus trying to find an investment. So I want to also talk about, okay, you put that money into a savings account, but then you can also take that money and say, okay, let me find another savings vehicle that could maybe help me get a little bit more interest on my money. Remember, the interest is what we're earning off of that money. So a couple things we want to consider. The cost of living. So every year, cost of living goes up between 2 and 3%, meaning that every year it costs you about 2% next year. So even that $100 you had and you earned a penny on, you didn't really get yourself to the next year with it because you only earned 1, but 2% or 3% was the growth. So you're already behind in that savings account. So what you want to consider is a mutual fund or other investments. A mutual fund is a good way for people to get started. I know at Thrivent we start as low as $50 a month with mutual fund accounts, but you're asking, okay, what is a mutual fund? So it's a group of funds. It's a group of investments. So you can have stocks where you own part of the company with shares, or you can have bonds where you're actually owning the debt of a company, the DEBT of a company, or combinations of those things. And with the mutual funds, it combines it for you. So it might combine, a certain number of technology stocks, a certain number of communication stocks, in with some maybe home improvement stocks. And it combines it into one fund for you. And then through that combination, it then invests in the market. And when you're doing that, it gives you diversification. So you're not putting all your money into technology or all your money in communications. So it gives you balance. And then you're able to invest in that big grouping and get some more off of your money versus just going into a savings account where you're really not even keeping up with the cost of inflation in that savings account. So it just gives you options. And of course, with the mutual fund, like any other investment, you do take a risk because you're putting your money into the market, but you can consider what that risk would be. You can say, you know what, I'm a conservative investor. I really don't feel comfortable losing not even a dime. Maybe I do something more safe, bond type activities, or you might say a little bit more risky. I'm more of a moderate, so you might consider a combination of stocks and bonds. And then you might just say, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to ride this thing out. So you might say, okay, I'm more of an aggressive or moderate aggressive investor. So you would have to just work with your financial professional and figure out what you're comfortable with. But all in all, you want to remember that as you have money and you're putting money in an account, savings account is really not doing much for you as far as interest. You want to get your money into some type of investment. And you can do that as low as $50 a month with some of the options that we have at Thrivent at other companies as well.
Now, I like what you're saying because, in general, we've been actually taught savings account. Matter of fact, we're just getting to the point where we start thinking savings account because, if we honest, Janna, just a few years ago or maybe a generation ago, we were stuffing stuff under the mattress.
Yeah.
Come on now. We still have it in the
Yes.
mattress, under the floorboard, in some little weak area of the house. And we
Yes.
were doing these type of things. But now we do understand that, look, that we do have some security in some of the in the banking industries. And so we can put our money in these savings account. But when we start saving back in that time, the interest rate was a lot higher. Now,
Yes.
the interest rate is not as competitive. So I love what you're saying about really being thoughtful about the new things that are coming out that allow us to make more money and to be a
Yes.
little bit more strategic with our money, because in this case, it could be just a little lazy to throw your money into a savings account when you can do just another 30 days worth of research and find something that makes your money a lot more effective. Now, I wanted to ask you this because there are a lot of apps that are out right now that are
Yep.
allowing people to invest in opening up the market to people. Even buying policies is
Yes.
becoming easier. So help us to understand, because there's a lot that goes into it. And one of the fears that I have is that the apps make things so simple that someone could click at 2 o'clock, spend $50, and then have $5
Yep.
left at 3 o'clock. So talk to me about these apps.
Yeah, yep. So we have been getting a lot of questions about the different apps and the different, so easy, you can invest here and do here, I do this and do that. I had a client the other day tell me, I invested $300 last night in some kind of Bitcoin or whatever that she was doing, just because she got a request on the internet or whatever about it. So the thing to know is some of these things are really good and you can do a lot of it on your own, but you really need to consider, do I have the education to really make these decisions? So financial education, just like any other education, I wouldn't make a medical decision and just go pop on the Apple, I'm going to start taking this type of medicine just because that one looks like it might work for my situation, because I don't know anything about that. So I always tell folks, if you feel you're comfortable, maybe you've met with your financial professional, you guys have talked about, your risk tolerance and things like that, and you see something that comes up that you feel like is a good fit for you, then yes. But if you're just jumping in there because they're saying just click 1, 2, 3 and all this other stuff, I would not do that, because it is your money, whether it's $1, 50 cents, or a quarter. You work for it and it belongs to you, and you want to make sure that it's being applied and used as you want it to be.
Well, Janna, you do know, and I know you're well aware that many of us
Yes.
swear by Google. So we self-diagnose ourselves and we buy
Yes.
over-the-counter stuff and try to figure out a way to fix our ailments. And that's kind of the way that we are
Yes.
going, and
Yes.
where there might be some benefit to knowing some things in advance. Sometimes it can make things seem so easy or so effortless that you can kind of have a false sense of security with those type
Yes.
of things. And one of the things that I love about having a professional is that you have someone that is a lot more attentive to it. So when you're dealing with the day's business, that you don't have to worry about watching trends and all of these things, because if something does happen and the bottom falls out, you have someone that can make a phone call and make that transition.
Yes.
So before we move to the next topic, can you talk about how you work with clients? The attentiveness. Are you doing a lot of emails or phone calls or even streams like this? What are you doing?
Yes. So each one of my clients are different. Of course, I work with, businesses, organizations, churches, individuals, families. So everybody has their own kind of needs. But I like to meet with my clients at least, depending on their needs, quarterly, sometimes semi-annually, sometimes annually. I do have some clients I meet with monthly. So it just depends on what we have going on with your plan. So if you're, let's say, for example, about to retire and we're getting close, I might meet more often to kind of talk about, the plans we put in place to make sure that what we've done is working for you. So I like to meet with my clients as possible, depending on their schedules and what they have. so that we're making sure that we're tracking to those goals. And they're doing their part, whatever it may be. It's to put a budget together or to get statements over to me so we can look at how the influencers are doing, different things like that. But definitely touching base with folks, I would say quarterly, semi-annually, or annually, depending on where they are with their goals and how we've met the goals to date, you know. Now, some of my people, I got to nudge them a little bit more than others. So I might call those folks and email them, you know, just depending on how they respond.
Amen. Remember, Jesus was long suffering, so be patient.
Yes.
Look at one of the things I was going to say about that is it's kind of the way of the world, is that we do like a sense of immediacy, and there's something that feels very comforting about being able to look at something literally right there before your eyes. But sometimes that can be unnerving, especially if you see something dropping, because you know I was riding in the car and they the market is down 300 points. I'm like, oh Lord, we need to get out. You know, pick that phone, hit the advisor, and they're like, nah, bro, relax. It's okay. But you can also pull yourself out too early from something because you're not educated enough to understand trends and how things flow. So I thank God that you guys are also an entity that also tries to educate your clients as well.
Yes.
And so thank God for all of the seminars that you guys do and the pamphlets that you pass out to make sure that people can be informed themselves and have a good conversation when it is that time. Now, we did talk about the start off mutual funds versus savings. So in this, you're leaning towards?
Definitely mutual fund.
Got to do the mutual fund.
You've got to. Savings account, you're not earning a dime. You're not even keeping up with, you're literally not earning a dime. You're earning a penny on $100, if that. So what you want to do is get your money into some type of bond, some type of stock. We'll have to do the risk assessment, of course, to see, you know, whether you are comfortable, you know, if you'll be able to sleep at night if you see a couple of dips and things like that. But you want to get your money in something to at least keep up with the cost of inflation and as time goes, because in a savings account, you don't even keep up. You bought bread this year for $1. It's not going to be $1 next year. So you need to make yourself to where you're keeping up with at least the cost of inflation. And if you're comfortable saying, you know, I have $50 in my account, I want to keep, you know, 25 to where I can always get it right there in my savings, and I'll put the other 25 or 50 or whatever in a mutual fund where I can still get it in 2 days, but at least it's attempting to keep up with the cost of inflation.
Gotcha. Now, before we move on to this and go ahead and start talking about the benefit of stewardship, I did want you to talk about starting early, because this stream is really for young adults. That's my aim with this stream. And one of the things that you talked about was compound interest. Please tell people why they should start right now, because everybody's trying to live their best life. Everybody trying to live a boss right now while they're 20, spending all this money, and then they're going to be in Walmart. And I love me some Wally World, but at 75, I don't want to work there. I want to shop there.
Exactly. So the power of compounding, people. I don't know how much more I can emphasize this, jump up and down, do whatever I need to do here, but we must understand, especially in our community, that we have to start saving money as soon as possible. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. You could say, I'm going to put back $50 a month, $10 a month, whatever you're comfortable with. But over time, money grows with time, and you have to put it in there so you have the time for that growth. There are tons of calculators on the internet that you can pull up and that will show you how compounding works. But if you would just pull up one of those calculators, you'll be able to see, and I'm just going to give you guys an example here. And let's say I put in $100, and I'm just going to do this real quick right here, and I'm earning, let's say, 8%. So you're more of a moderate to aggressive investor there. 8%, and you do that for, let's say you do that for 5 years, okay? That's $146.93.
Wow.
Now, if you were to put that same $100 in the savings account that we talked about where you're earning 0.01, that's 5 cents. That's a big difference.
Yeah, I was looking at that because I was sitting through a seminar, just literally on Monday,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the ways the opening of the seminar was how do banks make money, and they were
Mm-hmm.
showing how they make money on the interest of the loans that they
Your
get from your
interest,
money.
your
Yeah,
money.
so they take your money, they loan it to other people, and
Yes.
make interest off of that, and then they loan you back a portion of your money, and then you
And
pay
they might
them
loan it
interest.
to you. This is the thing. They loan you your own money and make the interest off of it. And you're
Yeah.
not earning anything.
And
And
you not earning a dime.
where do
And
you think their money is? In the
yeah,
funds that we just talked
the
about.
funds, yeah, and they don't care that they're giving you that 1% because they're
Yeah.
making 15 to 20% on your money, and
Yes.
so they're it's a win-win. They'll give you they can bump it up to 5 or 6 and still be
Yep.
making out like bandits. And so that's one of the things that we have to understand is that yes, the savings accounts are great, good. If you're using a savings account, kudos to you. But there are some other things that you can do that can earn and make your money work a lot more greater for you. It just takes a little bit more investment. Building a relationship with an expert that can help you. It may cost you a little bit of money here and there, but at the same token, when you see what you're getting from it, it's going to far outweigh the investment that you did. You do everything else to invest, right? When I buy a
Yep.
car, I take a mechanic with me and I pay him $50 and I let him kick it.
Right.
And sure, sometimes there's still some stuff wrong with it, but there's a lot more safety and security in having him kick it than it is me kick it because I'm not an
Right.
expert. And so sometimes you have to do these things to make sure that you're making a solid decision and a solid investment.
Yep. And one thing I want to mention to you, Pastor Johnny, is that the amount that you can get started with, this is where people always say, oh, this all you need? You can get started as low as $50 a month with
Yeah.
a mutual fund. You don't have to have a whole lot of money. I think there's a misconception that you have to have a whole lot of money to get started. You don't. You can get started very, with a very, small amount and still start making some progress over time.
Excellent, excellent. Now, the next thing I want us to jump into is we think that peace comes with making more money. And I'm just convinced that when we look at God's word, he talks so much about stewardship. So let's take a couple of minutes to jump into this thing and talk about how stewardship brings you peace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How does stewardship bring you peace?
So absolutely, I'm a Jesus girl, so I know that, I know that, everything that we have is from God in the first place. Everything we have is from God, and everything that all of our promotion comes from God, all of our resources come from God, even the ability to, go to work, the strength that we have is from God. So when you recognize that, okay, I not only am I thankful and grateful for all that God has given me, God has also made me a manager. And in that management, I'm responsible for my family, physically, also spiritually, and also financially. I'm responsible. And so when you start taking on that, I'm responsible for this and God gave this to me so that I can be a good steward of these things, you will find that you will find so much peace in developing your budget and saying, okay, I have 10% allocated for my tithes and I have this allocated for my savings, and I know that I'm taking care of my kids with this piece of inheritance. Creating that plan gives you so much peace, even if you are to the point where, I can't, make that contribution at this point to this or to that or the other. Just the fact that you have thought it out and that at some point you're going to start moving in that direction, that just gives you so much peace. And it just confirms, hey, I'm going to do, God, you're going to bless me and I'm going to do the right thing with the money that you've given me. And that includes not only being a good steward now for my family, saving for the future, giving to my church, and just building my legacy. And so financial planning is the piece that I think that the piece that gives us the peace, right? So that is the piece that gives us the PEACE, of it, just having that plan and knowing that we are moving in the direction that God would want us to with our finances, because it's so much more than our money. Really and truly, that the finances, especially when you get to your inheritance, that's your last love letter to your family.
Yeah.
I've given you this, whatever that amount you allocate for their final services or for their college or whatever it may be, saving for. That's letter. I love you, to proceed with your life in my death.
Well, Janna, honestly, most people are not leaving a love letter; they're leaving a sticky note. so, so
Yes.
how do we? And I want to go back into the
Yes.
stewardship thing, because a lot of why most of us are leaving sticky notes is because of the way we have stewarded our money. There is no inheritance to leave because we started in our 20s trying to be a baller, trying to
Yep.
create this image, spending money hand over fist, making $80,000 a year, but spending 120. And yes, you make a lot of
Yep.
money, but you're spending more than you're making. So you're not going to leave an inheritance, and you're not going to have the peace of mind that comes with planning and living inside of a budget. So
Yeah.
that's why your anxieties are high. And so
Yep.
some of what we can relieve from the stress and anxieties that we go through is just by being good planners, and then being good stewards. And so, do you have a rule of thumb of how much you would advise people to live off of? You make 100%. Are there some general things that you would advise people to do as far as some buckets or some percentages that might lead towards this piece?
Yeah, absolutely. So, everybody's going to be a little bit different, but there are some like generic, pieces that we can put around it. So, if you are a, Christ follower, you're going to church, I recommend people do at least 10% just for your tithes, and then you might want to do an offering on top of that. So at least 10% of your money is not yours. Okay, just put that to the side. Then you have your, what they call your income that's not disposable, that you have to use for rent, car, different things like that. So they always recommend that number doesn't go above 60% at maximum. So if you're going over that for, food, car, mortgage, or rent, things like that, going over 60%, then you need to take another look at that to see, where you are with that. But typically, you want to have about 10% going to your church, at least for your tithes at minimum. Then you want to also have savings, at least another 10 or so percent going to your savings. And then you want to have some kind of wiggle room in there, another 10%. And then if right under the 60 and under, you want to take care of everything that you need to, that are the things in your home that you have to do, your utilities, your car, your home, things like that. So that's typically how they break it up. Every family, businesses, churches, and you kind of work it that way. That's a general rule, about 60% on your must-haves, and then the rest you split up. The other 40%.
So that 40, can we put in a bucket for stunting? Because a lot of what we like to do is just let people know we got it. We like to create an image of ourselves so we can, let everybody know we live that good life, that blessed and highly favored life. Let them know the Lord looking out of His children, right? And so when we look at the entertainment, one of the things we can also talk about, and I was talking to my daughter about this, is how this stewardship and being aware of all of what you get with being attached to certain companies, and how sometimes we don't even use all of the benefits. They may give you a certain amount of points, or they may offer you a stay at a place for being a part of their services, and just the different amenities that come along with companies. How can we do a better job of researching those things and utilizing those things to allow us to experience some of this without taking on the full financial brunt of it and digging ourselves into debt?
Yep, absolutely. And this brings such a good point. This is something that we do a lot of. So I'll take, for example, when somebody is working at a company, because I get a lot of these situations where people will come in and say, oh, well, I didn't read my whole financial package, or they didn't go over the whole thing when I got hired, and I didn't realize that I could match, or I could do this, or could do that. So the first thing in wherever you get started, whether it be working at a new job or you're signing up for some type of new product, just making sure you understand the benefits of it. So many people say, oh, well, I signed up for that, but I don't know what it does. Oh, no, we got to stop doing that. And we've got to start looking at these policies that they give us. And if we don't understand, calling those customer service centers saying, hey, I don't get this. What is it that I signed up for? And making sure we're taking advantage of those benefits. I just had one young lady, I just started working with her. Her family, no one in her family has ever had a financial professional, so she didn't even know anything about it. But she went and started a new job, provided me her benefits package from her company, and we went through that line by line together and made sure that she is taking advantage of all of the items that were free to her and her family. Yeah. And so you have to make that step.
My wife recently, we were refinancing our home. I told you about that. Mm-hmm. And so the company that we were refinancing with said, hey, look, if you want to bring your mortgage down, you need to look at your insurance because we're down pretty low. And so she went out and got some quotes, and our home insurance and our car insurance was bundled together. It was $6,000. Yeah. It was crazy. And so it was like, oh, wow. So she went out and got some quotes, $3,000, $2,500, $2,700. Yep. So then she called the current guys and was like, hey, yeah, I'm going to need my money back. We switching. And then all of a sudden they had some sense, Janna.
Oh, do you see they had some deals once you did that? Yeah.
The Lord moved on their hardened hearts and spoke to Pharaoh. Quickly. Hey, come on now. So sometimes we need to call and negotiate and be a little bit more aggressive. Yes. Can you talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. And this, actually, I just went through this with another client, and it was with credit card companies. So she had several credit cards. During COVID, her business wasn't doing as well. So apparently, they had to have some. You got to have, $7,000 or whatever it was. They have to have that, or else they won't be able to do anything or help her. So we sat down. We made a financial plan. We got back, and she was like, "Okay, I could do $300 a month or whatever the amount was." Now all of a sudden, they can do that. So it is. You have to be able to push back and ask questions and get education that you need, because a lot of it is we just don't know. We just have not been exposed to enough in the financial community to really stand on our own and have some of these follow-ups. We just don't know what we don't know. Now, for me, because I look at a lot of different budgets and a lot of different amounts, I can look at an amount and say, hey, that looks high. You paying that much? That looks kind of high to me, because I see it all the time. But if I was working in another industry, I wouldn't know what's high or what's low. If I was a teacher or, doing something different. So just making sure we're doing that research. And now with the internet, you can just type something up and check real quick. It's worth it to check, because all those dollars, they matter. Think about the money you're going to save off of that insurance now, what you could do with children, what you could do for yourself, home improvements, open that up.
And the other debt that it can be applied to. The other debt that it could be applied to. And one of the things I wanted to say, and I know this was my case, especially in college, they call it product loyalty. And I had the first credit card that I got when I was in high school going to college. And the interest rate was just ridiculous compared to what was out there. But I would not switch or use any other credit card, because that was my baby. We had been through some wars together, some storms together. She had bought me hot dogs and chips and Slurpees. I just couldn't see moving on from her, because she had been so nice to me. And there are so many of us that fight with this product loyalty. How do we break that mindset? Because they actually depend upon that to make money and to increase rates without us moving.
Yes. So every year you need to look at those rates. I mean, sometimes they're just creeping up on you, even if you are paying, as you should and all that, they're creeping up those rates. You can't have those types of loyalties. They're not loyal to you when they're raising up those interest rates. No. So you need to be thinking about it the same way. Hey, I need to think about my family. I need to think about my business. This is nothing personal. I've got to look at this, my finances as a business. I owe God his money, and I owe my family or my business or whatever the amount that I need to, save or consider whenever I'm working through my finances. So all of these bills and credit cards, we need to be looking at these things all of the time. And if you're not getting a paper bill, make sure you're going online and getting online access and taking a look. They'll just start creeping up on you. You gave the example of your mortgage insurance. Some of these things, they just creep up over time. So you may not have started with that amount. You with a different amount. And then because you said, oh, they're doing the right thing. Oh, it's a big name company. It's all safe.
You just keep renewing.
No, they're attacking while you're not looking. And out of order with it. So they can do that. So you need to make sure you're taking at least every year, going back to what we talked about, sitting down and doing a review of your finances. And if you're just getting started with a brand new baby plan, you need to be looking at it even more than just every year. You need to look at it every 6 months, every 3 months, sometimes every month, depending on where you are.
Well, thank you for that. Y'all heard it. Y'all hear it. Janna Hurd saying these banks ain't loyal. These banks ain't loyal. Isn't that a song?
Loyal. Yes, it is.
They ain't loyal.
It's on my phone now. It's called These Banks Ain't Loyal. That's it.
These banks ain't loyal. So look, what inspired me to reach out to you again, I had a conversation with one of my daughters, and she was getting ready to come into some money via form of inheritance. A lot of the times we talk about leaving an inheritance. Parents, grandparents, leave an inheritance. And yes, but the Bible also says a fool that his money will soon part. So I thought we should talk about inheritance because there are going to be some that come into 10, 20, 50,000, 100, maybe even a house and maybe not know what to do with it. Don't even understand they're going to be taxes due. They may get a car. They may even get a business and have no business being a business, but have a business to be able to run. So let's talk about this inheritance, putting yourself in position. What type of research? What should you do specifically with that money once you get it in your hands? Because, we want to stunt.
Yes, so stunt. This is not the time for stunt when you get the cash. That's a song too. That's number 2 on the playlist. Okay, the first one, the bank saying. First one is the bank's not loyal. The second one, it's not the time for stunting. So what you want to do whenever you get any kind of lump sum, okay? Now, remember, you already have your budget in place. You already have what I call a financial snapshot. So you'll have a list of, what are my debts and what are the things that I owe to different people? What are the interest rates on my different credit cards? So you come into this lump sum. It could be your stimulus check. It could be from a family member. It could be wherever that source is. You get this chunk of money. All right. So you want to consider what is some debt that I'm paying? Is it a big credit card? Is it something that I'm paying that I can either knock out, I can refinance, I can, get a better rate knowing that I have some collateral now? So you want to look at what do I owe people? How can I get out of that first? Then second, how can I make an investment for the future? There are so many products, annuity products, mutual fund products, life insurance products that you can buy with a lump sum and then just have it sit and grow for you. And it's an asset on your financial portfolio. It'll be an asset for you. And then it'll also be a way for you to gain some interest on this money. So it's not the time to figure out any purses and shoes and cars you can buy when you come into money. It's time to sit down and say, what do I owe somebody? Because I don't want to be a slave to owing anybody. Then how can I make this money make me some money? At least make some interest, keep up with inflation, and then make an investment in the future, retirement. Maybe you create your own, insurance plan for your family out of that, or you create a bucket of money where you're earning some decent interest that you can pull from in the future. So whatever it is, I don't care if you come into $100 and you didn't know it was coming. Okay, now you have this $100. You have your budget. You have your snapshot in place. Let me take a look at these things. Let me sit back. Just because I got it in, that's the third song on there. Just because I got it yesterday, I don't have to spend it. Okay, that's third playlist.
We gotta have a long playlist.
You ain't got to spend it. Just because you got it, you ain't got to spend it.
That money burns a hole in our pockets. And especially if you've always been under distress and you feel like you've never been able to really enjoy what money brings. And so when that money comes into your hand, the initial thought is, what can I do with it? So do you have a rule of thumb on how long you should sit and think and plan? Should you at least give it 60 to 90 days, or do you increase according to the amount? It's like, look, if you get $100,000, you don't touch it until, you know,
wait
until
a
you
whole
meet
year.
Yeah, you know, you got to have some kind of thing, because we have this concept of liquidating, you know, to when it gets in our hands, it's gone before we even have been very thoughtful about it, and don't understand really how we can reset ourselves. And then the first one that we did, I was telling a story about a gentleman that came to our church who talked about an Asian family that had this concept of taking risk. They were taking all these risks because they understood that once this life insurance policy came, that the split between the four of the children, they would all get $250,000. So they would be able to reset themselves and to cover the risk that they took, or to advance themselves and improve upon the things that they had built. And so talk about how that insurance can be the thing that serves as the vehicle that covers previous sin or addresses future sin.
Absolutely. The absolute best way to build wealth is life insurance. Life insurance is paid to your beneficiaries tax-free. It's also a mechanism to build cash value and an asset, have an additional asset, just like you would have, you know, a mortgage or a home. This life insurance also serves as an asset for you. So I can't say enough about life insurance because I've seen it. Last year I had two clients pass away from COVID. One client had life insurance for her son, who is in high school right now. And the money that she left him, by the time he graduates, he's going to be a millionaire, reinvesting that money. And then I had another family, a family of color, who had not purchased the insurance when we talked about it. And I called them numerous times to set up an appointment to talk about the insurance and what I had, you know, explained to them. They never went through with it. And the mom ended up passing away without insurance. And so we ended up pulling together to help pay for the nation. But you can have two different stories. You decide what the story is going to be. But once you do get this life insurance money, it passes tax-free. It's the only way to really, truly build wealth quickly in America. Even if you were to double compound your money, triple compound your money, you're not going to get, let's say you have $1 million policy and you are, you know, in your 20s or 30s when you open that up, you may pay, you know, $40, $50 a month for that policy. Nowhere else can you pay $40 and get $1 million. It's just not going to happen. Insurance is the tool, the mechanism that's going to drive you in that way. And to your point, it could cover, you know, it could pay up debt for people that need to pay their cars or homes, schools, loans, whatever it may be, and then turn around and still have some change to do some investment. But the one thing I always tell people, if you have a plan, it doesn't matter, like, for example, if you walk outside right now, you get $1 million. If you have a plan, you go back to your plan. What did I say I was going to do with my money? And that's what you do first, because that means that's what you have put thought into. You may have prayed about it, thought about it, talked to your spouse about it. You go back to your plan. Now, when you don't have a plan and you come into a chunk of money, that's where a lot of times you see people just go wild, because maybe they haven't had a whole lot of money, or they've been struggling and they're like, okay, now I'm going to go do this, I'm going to go do that. And then next thing you know, they're broke. So whenever you come into a chunk of money, if you have a plan, go back to your plan and say, okay, what did I say I was going to do? How much does that car cost or the house cost, and what can I do there? And then if you don't have, a plan like that in place, I would say before you spend a dime, sit down and make one. What is my plan? What is it that I want to do? Do I want to start putting $10 back now so that my, 2 or 3 year old can have X, Y dollars, at college time in 18 years? And
you can take somebody and
figure out how to do that.
Take a portion of that policy. If you had a $100,000 policy, you can say, look, I'm going to take out a policy on myself, and I'm going to take $10,000 from this policy to make sure that I have enough payments for that policy for the next
Yes.
5 or 6 years. I mean, there's some strategies that we could use to keep the wealth
It's
going.
better than that. You can take the interest off. So I gave the example of the mom. She was only 47. She passed away. Her son can take the interest off of that policy and pay for his policy and pay for other things. So he never comes out of anything out of his pocket.
Wow.
Yes, it's awful that he's lost his mom and all that kind of stuff, but she has given him a future that, you can't, it's not going to be, that's not irreplaceable right there. Especially you're in the 9th grade. By the time you graduate, you're going to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing, and it's through the life insurance product that you're able to have that type of flexibility for your family, and you're able to invest in them. And like I said, the last love note, I love you, and here's what I did. I sacrificed, was it $10 a month or $15, whatever it may have been, so that you could have this when I'm not here. And so, that's really the quickest way. But back to something else that you said earlier that I thought was so good. Whenever we are in that position, I haven't had any money. I've been trying, and now I get this chunk of money, and I want to show everybody that I have money. I want to buy this purse or this car or whatever, just to show that on the outside that I am doing well. You do that and you still don't feel good because you have not done what you really should have done. So even though on the outside you may look one way, that inside is still not right. Yeah. So part of your creating your financial plan is you're going to figure out the things on the inside of you. What are some of those goals? What are some of those family needs? What are some of those spiritual needs that I need to take care of? I just don't want to look pretty on the outside. I want to look pretty on the inside too. And I'm using the funds that I get to get me to that point.
Yeah, I love that because all of these things are working together. When we talked about the mutual funds and the savings, and then we talked about the stewardship and how that brings peace, and now we're talking about the inheritance that could come to you. And if you've done these other things proper, then the inheritance will add to you. And like you said, there's so many words that most of the times the inheritance is a saving agent. We've done a bad job managing our money. We overextended ourselves. And now we looking at grandma saying, all right, 7, come on, 7. And it's like, no. That's foolishness. Look, if you will manage what you have properly, you can properly enjoy her life and the things that she or he leaves to you, then they will add into you. They're not saving you. They're adding to you. They're extending their legacy through you. And that comes through proper management. And then the other thing is there are some things that we will be able to take advantage of, some investments, some property, some businesses that are for sale that we could buy with this money that's coming in. But because of the way we've managed other things, we're not even going to be able to take advantage of those opportunities.
Yep. And then a big part of that, too, is something you mentioned, too, about the taxes. And whenever you do get inheritance, depending on what the source was, understanding the tax implications of that as well.
Yeah. And that's the thing, one of how most of us get that lump sum is through those scratch off. Come on, scratch off. Hey. But when that scratch off comes through, like you said, that tax is gonna be like, come on, scratch off.
Yep, exactly.
But with the insurance, there is no win, there is no lose, there is just a win because you're making a strategic investment in the future and it will pay you and your children won't have to be worried about the taxes. Now, I do want to talk about the taxes also for a point because we're in a situation now where we're even having to plan because some of us are going to inherit land, inherit houses, inherit businesses. And a lot of us lose those things is because we don't do our proper research and understand taxes. So how are you able to, as a planner, help people sit down, put together that piece so that they can understand, yeah, Granny left you 2 acres, and every year these 2 acres is going to run you X amount of dollars. So now we need to put into your budget to save X amount of dollars.
Exactly. So part of your financial plan, I normally do it in steps with people, but you start off with your financial snapshot, just kind of listing out, what you have and what you owe, things like that. But then as you move in that financial plan, you have to come up with what we call a tax efficiency plan, where you're going to list out your assets, and we will talk about specifically what's a capital gain tax, meaning the higher taxes that you have to pay, or what is ordinary income based on your income. And then also, as time goes, if your salary changes and you get bumped up into a different bracket, what are some things that you can do with your business and personally to take advantage of some of the tax breaks that are out there? Because there's definitely breaks out there. And it's all about, again, having that plan, even the types of investments you consider. So do I do a Roth IRA, or do I do a traditional IRA? Do I do a municipal bond, which is free from federal tax, or do I do some of the bonds, corporate bonds that are taxed? So all of that we have to look at when we look at what tax bracket are you in. So that actually comes a little bit later. So I normally do the regular planning and then add on the tax efficiency plan, but it just depends on where that person is. But definitely part of your financial arsenal, of a review of all your financial items, will be your tax efficiency. It's so important because you could lose a whole lot of money if you don't know what you're doing with your taxes for breaks that you could have had. I mean, they belong to you. They're yours. You just have to figure out how to get to those quote-unquote promises. You got to get to those promises. Mm-hmm.
And I thank you for saying that, because honestly, most of you are probably like me, and the last time you heard of a loophole was when you were learning how to tie your shoes. But there are some things, amen, that are available to us. Much like Janna said earlier, when you start with a new company, or when you start a new relationship with a lender, or whatever that relationship is, you want to make sure that you have a full knowledge of what comes along with it. Even if it's a toaster, I want my toaster.
Give me my toaster. Yes.
Give
it
me
to
my
me.
toaster.
Yeah.
I'll stop by and pick it up.
Exactly.
I'll stop by and pick it up.
Like, you probably paid for it.
I don't pay for it anyway. Come on now.
Right.
I'm going to get my toaster. And we need to be thinking like that as well, because there are some things that come along with the relationships that we have. But most of the time, much like our phones, we don't use them beside the immediate function. And so there's a whole lot that goes into the relationship that goes to waste. And so that's part of the word that we use in the middle of this dialogue is stewardship. Part of the stewardship is not just counting the coins, but also managing the relationships that you have to such an extent that they are being used to their fullest extent. So, Janna, tell us how we can use our relationship with you to the fullest extent.
Yes, so what I would love to do is to meet with everybody and just have a financial consult. And I don't charge for any of my consults, so it's completely free. It doesn't cost you anything, and I might even buy you lunch or dinner. So, so basically what we do in that meeting is just talk about you. What are your financial goals? And then a lot of times I like to do a little bit of education on teaching how you can start to build up your own financial arsenal. So if you are not working with a financial professional and you want to, I would love to work with you and just, have you come in and, I can hear somebody's having a whole conversation.
I know, right? I'm sorry. I had Go ahead and say that again.
Oh, okay. No, I was just going to say, so I would love to meet with you. I don't charge for my consults, and do a consult where I sit down and talk about your financial goals, talk about, kind of where you are at, and we come together and we develop a plan for you. And a lot of times that could be, a plan for right now, just because you need some emergency things to get going, or sometimes it's, as you mentioned, I'm getting some land. How can I start planning for my, tax efficiency when that does happen? So just having that financial consult, sitting down and talking about, what is it that I need to do to get started on my financial journey? Because it's just that. And it will run you your whole life. So, it's not you're just going to sit down one time and you're done. No, because things change every year. You might have a new baby, you might go through difficult family time, you might, come into some money, or you might lose some money. So things are changing all the time. So once you develop that relationship with your financial professional, you want to meet with them as often as you can and just make sure that you are still on track. If those goals were, college savings for your 2-year-old, or if you have a grandchild, you said, I want to make sure that I'm able to help their parents with XYZ, or if I have a church and I want to make sure that my church leaders get XYZ, creating that plan and then working through till you get to that plan and being able to say, yep, we've got that done, check. Now let's move on to the next goal, check, and keep going over time until we complete your entire financial plan, which will go forever, as I mentioned, till you die, really, because you go from, your retirement savings to maybe grandkids, and then you go into a death claim. You pass away, and then those proceeds go to your family members, and then we or me or whoever could talk to them about, okay, now what's next? Grandpa, granddad, grandma did this. What do you want to do for your legacy? So just that financial journey, starting that off and meeting with me or someone else to do that.
Well, thank you for all of the information that you've given us. I do want to let you know that we will not be adding any more children. Just so that you know that. Yeah, you mentioned that. I was like, the devil is a lamb. Whoa! Start talking in tongues over here. Start speaking that, boy. Like, you didn't give that to her. Say she's not a prophet.
No.
Oh Lord, that got me right there. So, man, I don't get no respect around her.
Unexpected children happen. Unexpected
children. We don't want none of them either. Try to keep my house together. Hoppo, who did? Like, oh Lord, it got me in trouble. Now we try to keep this thing together. Hey, look here. I hope that you've enjoyed our time together. Spending time with great people like Sister Janna Hurd, who have a gift and an expertise and an anointing over their life to do some really, really outstanding things. And those things are available to you. Give us your contact info before we drop off, because we're right at that line.
Yep, absolutely. So my email address is janna.hurd@Thrivent, Thrivent.com, janna.hurd@Thrivent.com. My office is right in the Greenspoint area. It is about 10 minutes from the airport, right off of Beltway 8. So 340 North Sam Houston Parkway is where my office is, and right in the Houston area. But I think I mentioned earlier that I'm licensed in other states as well. And so you can email me, you can come by the office, you can, however you want to get a hold of me, you can, and we can set up an appointment and go from there. But yep, Janet. Oh, thank you, Janet. I heard at Thrivent.com. My number is 713. What is my new number? 904-1295. I think. Yep. 713-904-1295.
All right, people, you heard it. You heard it here, and that's how you can contact Janna Hurd. And please feel free to share this video. This information needs to get out. And because she has so very, very much to offer the community. And I hope this has been something that has been life-changing for you, something that you will apply to your life. Don't just listen to it. Don't just laugh, because I'm going to give you a little something to laugh at, but really apply this to your life. Take this serious, and let's make sure that we can not just build the kingdom of God, but your personal kingdom. I want to see your personal kingdom thrive. I don't want to see the church going light years ahead because we've been managing and working according to these principles, and see you out there busted and disgusted. That's not an interest. We want you to apply these principles to your life, to be good managers and stewards, so that your family can continue to thrive and to do the things that God would desire us to be. And I'm not talking about being rich. I'm talking about being fruitful, being productive, being prosperous, not just financially, but spiritually, having the peace that surpasses all understanding. And I'm telling you, it comes with keeping your mind stayed up on Him. But I'm guaranteeing you that some of that involves a little bit of stewardship. And if you do that, man, I'm telling you, life is going to get better. Hey, I love you, and thank y'all for hanging out with us today for another time in each other's presence.
Yes.